electric starts and typical clutch. And they've got a big entry this weekend of well over 20 in the Rotax category. So it's a round of the Victorian Series. And we've also got 3 New Zealanders over for the weekend. It is the second round of the Australian Rotax National Championships here at Winton this weekend. So I bumped into a friend of mine from New Zealand, Ryan Urban, who's over running 3 karts. They've got 3 rentals over here. They bought their own engines over this time, and they're part of the category out there as well. So these Rotaxes have been around for a long time. I've actually got one up at home in Queensland. I've got back into karting recently, so know a little bit about them. They're an awful lot of fun to drive. I've been driving on the dirt on slicks. I haven't done any road racing on a big motor racing circuit, because usually when you see kart sport, it's sprint racing on a purpose-built kart track. And some of those tracks are 1,100 metres long, but not anything as big as we've got here at Winton. And Winton's one of the smallest circuits. These guys race at the Bend in South Australia. You know, 18 corners. Like on the main straight, you'd have time to sit there and read a book. But in saying that, I'm not belittling them because they're slow. They're fast. These karts will do well in excess of 100 mile an hour in road race trim. They're a little bit different to the sprint karts. They have a longer wheelbase. Some of them are purpose-built chassis. Some of them are modified sprint chassis, where they make them a little bit longer, because what they're trying to do is basically slow everything down from a turning point of view. You don't want them to be too twitchy and too sensitive, because the corners are a lot bigger, the track's a lot wider. It's all about this shot here, and it's the slipstream effect with these road race bodies on the car.
Well, you can see him duck right in behind. It's a qualifying session. They'll have 15 minutes to lay a time down, and I'm looking at 27 names up on that screen. It is a massive field.
Yeah, we've got something close to 50 karts here this weekend. So the 90 at the front of that's one of the Kiwi visitors. That is Tyler Edney, and Ryan Urban's running Tyler this weekend. So that's a local kart. It's a Scorpion chassis, so that's a purpose-built road racing chassis. You won't see any of those racing at the sprint events around Australia, because they're just too long and too big, and they wouldn't react the same as a sprint-style chassis. There will still be some of the older, not older, but the predominantly sprint-style chassis out there. With some of the chassis brands, you've got OTK, Intrepid, CRG, and Arrow chassis, of course, here in Australia. And then when we sort of get into the 125s and the bigger 250 stuff, that's where we start getting into the European dominance with those sort of chassis manufacturers. It's a different
Well, Russ Occhipinti is in second position at the moment. Petrocchi in third, Carrera in fourth, and Bell in fifth. Now, just having a look at some of the times, there's not too much between them. It's only a tenth between 1 and 2. We go back, 6 tenths back to third position as well. So it's really going to come down to that slipstream down those little straights we've got possibly that could make up a tenth here and a tenth there. Yeah, and the run from 4.5 up to 6.2 over the left-hand side of the circuit off turn 3. There'll be a bit of a draft effect going through there. So for qualifying, I reckon a toe is definitely going to be really, really important. So it is the 90 of Edney that's actually out in front. I'm pretty sure he goes into this weekend second in the points in the Australian Championship, based out in New Zealand. So yeah, good to see 3 of the Kiwis, and literally walking down the pitch yesterday, bumping into a couple of guys I haven't seen for probably 9 or 10 years, just at the same racetrack like
on the other side of the Tasman.
It's where we all come together, all the races, and everyone involved in motorsport. It's a big family. And you can see our Superkarts Group 1 out on track for their first qualifying session. We've still got 2 more qualifying sessions coming out a little bit later on. Of course, our Rotax category out on track at the moment. And although we've got 27 of them out there, 28 actually, they have spread themselves out just a little bit on this 3-kilometre track. I mean, Winton, not a massive track. There's a 12 corners to get around. A couple of small straights, really. It's not made up of one long straight like we saw at the Bend last time we came out for the High-Tech Oil Super Series. It's made up of, we've really got a small straight between 10 and 11, 12 to turn 1, 2 to 3, you come up over a crest. That'll be a bit of a different, but like you say, with these karts turning left, they're not going to have to worry about the power so much as they go through 5 down into 6. They're really going to be able to try and push the limits on the edge of those little tyres. You see him come around to complete just another lap, and you can see some of the drafting already happening in the background.
What impressed me this morning, just watching down by the side of the track, so off the front straight into turn 1, right here, is how much they don't actually slow down. So in a TA2 or a bigger car, you're actually on the brakes probably at about 60 metres on the board. They're not rolling a lot of breakthrough there. They're actually attacking that sequence because they are a lot smaller. So they're not having to get the thing stopped, because these things will stop from 100 kilometres an hour to 0 in about 2.5 seconds. If you can do that without rotating it, you've done a pretty good job. But yeah. Start really easy to run. You can change the jetting in them, and that's pretty much about it. And obviously the gearing. Other than that, they're stock standard. You're not allowed to modify them or make them bigger. They're all 125cc reed valve carburetor, running on pump fuel and 2-stroke.
Pereira has just gone up there with the 98 as well.
129.48. 129.48. 25cc and 30 horsepower.
Incredible.
That's right, these things are 30 horsepower.
Power to weight, lot of difference there. They move around. So Edney will go into second position now at the moment. Still out on track there for Edney. Let's see if maybe he can put another lap together. Did see some purple sector times come up. They've gone off the board. Looks like Pereira has sector 1 at the moment, is the fastest out there.
Occhipinti with sector 2.
And Quattrocchi in sector 3 too with a 30.99. So not everyone putting a complete lap together when it comes to those times.
Now, the other thing here with the Rotax is we have 3 different categories in amongst the Rotax division on track right now. So we have Rotax Light, Rotax Heavy, and Rotax Super Heavy, as we go back to the 90 of Edney again, who is still P2. He was on pole there for a little bit, but Pereira's just eclipsed him. So 3 different weight divisions to help some of us more generously proportioned drivers.
I like that. That's a nice description.
Yeah. So I'm not 100% sure what the weights are. I'm just sort of thinking back. So I'm going to say with driver, they're probably, I don't know, 190 kilo, 180, 190 kilos with driver. And that'll be sort of there or thereabouts with the different categories. So usually the separation between the weight divisions is sort of 10, 15 kilos between light, heavy, and then super heavy in those groups. I'm not 100% sure what the weight divisions are, but there are definitely 3 categories across this Rotax class.
Well, that's going to change things up a little bit later when we sit and go into race mode, of course, and we'll try and decipher that for you here on the coverage.
Well, that's right. And so running together. I think the 51's probably not got the advantage of the toe right now, as the 777 of Valor has headed off into pit lane. It's currently down in the 25th position.
Well, I'm going to say Pereira and Edney are in the light class at the moment, so it's pretty much the top 5 all in our mod light.
Yep, so the first of the heavies is number 1, and there's a reason there's number 1 on it, because he's the current champ, Colin McIntyre. He's leading the heavy class in the Woodgate chassis. And first of our super heavies will be the 13 of Joe Brancati.
I think that...
And he's also running in the stock,
might have just
stock
moved
Honda
on you.
class.
Just as you read that out, I think the 55 just went a little bit quicker, literally as you were reading that out.
All right, so the 55 is Cameron Austin. And he's another driver doing double duty. So he's also racing in the stock Honda 125 class coming up a little bit later on. So a few of these drivers are doing double duty across 2 different categories.
Well, the beautiful thing is with a supercar is you can get a couple of them in a trailer, can't you? You don't have to just bring the one, you put them in a van. So a lot more easy to transport than we see the bigger cars.
I did a lot of karting commentary over in New Zealand and various Rotax challenges. I actually, in the last month to 5 weeks, commentated the Australian Rotax Nationals at Ipswich Kart Club up in Queensland. And the reason why that's such a big deal is because the various winners in the categories go to represent Australia at the Rotax Worlds, which I think is coming up in the next couple of weeks over in Italy. And Rotax supply all the engines for every category and every driver out of every country that's represented. And Australia and New Zealand have had a big representation there for 15 plus years. Have been very, very good over there. In fact, I think Ryan Urban actually won a DD2 Masters Rotax Worlds going back a few years, who's here with us this weekend out in New Zealand running the other 3 Kiwis. So, yeah, they're such a cool engine. And it's the first time that I've actually, I've seen a little bit up at Queensland Raceway actually with some of the road racing up there, but not with fields as big as this. They're obviously pretty strong down here in Victoria.
Well, you can see Edney in the number 90 there, just coming around turn number 11. We'll try and complete another lap.
Pereira's just got purple in the first sector, so he's already fastest. But yeah, Edney's got a little bit of a toe here, so he's latched onto the back of the 13 of Brancati, who is in the
he's going to go past him
super
now.
heavy. Yeah, so that's the weight difference. So yeah, he's not going to get the draft because he goes by him. So that's just simply the weight difference.
Wait to see how he goes in sector 2 though, because he is really pushing on.
PB'd the first sector, but so did Occhipinti went green in the and the second sector. So Occhipinti on a lap here, and he's only 200s down on Edney for that second position. Pereira's gone purple, fastest of anyone to the first sector. This is kart 98. Sanjura, this is another Pereira.
Well, he'll come around to complete this lap. I think that second sector trying to do that overtake might have just hurt him just a little bit. You never know. Pereira 129.48 previously. Will not improve on that one.
Oh, Occhipinti. No, he goes fastest with a 29.45. So kart 93 is now fastest in the light category. McIntyre's still fastest in heavies, and he is 6th overall. That's impressive. Super impressive. And the first of the super heavies is, the 55 of Austin, who's in the 19th position. So that's impressive for a heavy to be inside the top 6 in amongst these. Now, with one make sort of same engine categories, it's all about momentum. You don't have an express amount of horsepower left over. If you make a mistake, you're done and gone. You're literally going to have to get that lap out of the way and regroup and get the next lap going. Edney's just gone fastest in the 90. Went purple in the third sector, 29.350 on lap 9. So these tyres have some durability.
Well, they're really starting to push now. I see the aggression you're talking about in turn number 1, isn't it? They almost slide the cart out.
There's not so much of a break. There might be a lift and turn to get the thing through. But
I want to say it's almost a scando to really get the cart to jump sideways and dig those outside tyres into the bitumen, and then they throw the weight back.
Coming back to what I was saying earlier about the momentum thing, so with only 30 horsepower, you just don't have that much in reserve to drive your way out of it. You've just basically got to gather things back up, regroup, head down and move on. So you'll see very little wheel input. So the steering, the Ackerman, the caster is very, very different to a sprint kart. Plus they run the karts a lot narrower, especially across the rear. So you can see off the side pods, pretty much running flush with the rear wheels. Now, these teams, likewise, like the TA2s and the RX8s and the XLs, as the checkered flag comes out, Occhipinti goes back to the front with a 28.9. Pereira just went 29.09. Edney drops back to third with a 29.35. He had pole there for about 2 minutes.
And he was in the second sector, so he's coming through the third sector now. He's not going to put it together, unfortunately. Eddie's going to stay in third position as he just completes that lap as the checkered flag is out. So they're going to come around and complete these. A few of these karts are already in the pits.
So that's only 4 seconds slower than Josh Haynes just did in the TA2. With 30 horsepower, 125.
And not a lot around them.
Not a lot around him. No, really cool. That was quite cool to watch. Hopefully you learned something. I have had a little bit to do with karting over many, many years on both sides. Well, more so in New Zealand, but yeah, it's pretty cool to have these guys here as part of this weekend, and looking forward to seeing some of the gearbox action a little bit later on.
Yeah, well, that's still coming your way, of course. Up next, we do have the Australian XL Series making their way out on track. Of course, a short 3-round Australian Series for them, and it is the final one here this weekend, so qualifying is going to be super important for our top 3. Of course, Waghorn's going to be one of those to watch out for, and we've got a couple of other drivers there that might really challenge him for a win this weekend, but you never know. But
yeah, Blake Tracy, Patterson, a little bit down on numbers. There's actually a little bit of racing around some of the other parts of the country, and some of these guys are coming off an enduro up at Queensland Raceway last weekend, and
try and finish off their championship at Winton Motor Raceway this weekend. Round 5 of the High-Tech Oils Super Series. It's great to have High-Tech Oils on board for this year. It's a second the investment making in TA2 muscle cars as well now, with 2 cars out in the field, and great to see him continue some of those relationships as well. I mean, Robbie Farr, it's not about who Robbie Farr is, it's about the relationship they've had over a number of years through his career.
High-Tech Oils were on Robbie's sprint cars for a long, long time. Yeah, exactly.
It's a friendship between those two, and it's also a I suppose a corporate partnership they've had for a long time. So great to see that coming back together as well. Let's get down to Mel though with our qualifying results in pit lane.
Tyler Edney, P3 in that session. Wow, it looks like a lot of fun out there in one of these.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, no, real tough competition this weekend. It's going to be some good racing.
So there's only a couple of tenths in it, but I'm curious, how many times around this track do you actually need to brake in one of these?
Oh, there's a few braking points, but yeah, it's always on edge. It's a lot of fun.
Well, it's pretty close up the front. We look forward to some good racing.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, the helmet's on. I think he's still dissecting the lap, probably thinking a little bit about how he could have gone a little bit faster and how they got him right at the end.
I forgot about the New Zealand accent.
Yours is wearing off a bit, mate. You spent too much time here.
It's still dance, not dance.
Have a look at that. The cars are lined up. Our XL's about to hit the track now.
I'm so impressed with this place. So, Matt, it's the first time I've been here. You've been here previously, obviously, and done a bit of the high-tech drifting stuff too. My first time to Winton Motorsport, to Winton Motor Raceway, and what I sort of didn't really realise is how much history has been here since 1961. And they've had a lot of big names racing here over the years. So back down to Jared on pit lane with one of our pole citizen cars.
Top qualifier Russ Occhipinti taking it out by over a tenth of a session. The time's getting faster and faster at the back end of that stint. How did it feel?
Felt great. It's good to be back out there at Winton. Fantastic circuit, so we'll look forward to a good race.
Very difficult to take data away from yesterday's sessions. Tell me, two-part question, is the cart dialed and are you dialed?
Well, we didn't do any qualifying or practice yesterday, so considering that, yeah, absolutely.
Great stuff. Over to you, Mel.
Sanuja Pereira,